Welcome, Nikki. Thank you so much for being here. So good.
Well, so before you leave, let me just give a big shout out because we teach and coach, Chris and I both, my husband Chris there, in lots of offices all across the country, both Keller Williams and non-Keller Williams offices. And there are just some offices that I wouldn't have turned down a request because, quite frankly, leadership are the type of people we want to be aligned with. And Chris is one of those, and of course my friend Rick. And so let me say to you guys this, that there are not a lot of offices out there across the country, whether they're KW or not, I don't mind saying this, that truly care as much about their agents as your guys' leadership. So give you guys a hand. All right, so it's not about the money, but it kind of is about the money, right? Sort of. Right? Okay, so here's what I'd like to start with is I have a need to know why you showed up today, right? So, and it can be for any reason. I mean, like you say, well, because you were here before and I liked you, so I showed up. I don't care what the answer is, but if you had some idea when you walked in the room today as to why you showed up, is because Chris told you you had to come. That's fine too. Just let me know that, and then that way I know kind of where you are mentally, and we can go from there. How's that sound? Right? You good?
Good.
All right, let's start with you. You don't have to stand up. You're welcome to stand up.
Well,
I
I'm
have no rules in this classroom.
I'm the real estate number of years, and I break away from the real estate for the last 4 years because the market I had the business to take care of that. I'm breaking back into that, and I heard a lot about you. I was in his class yesterday, first time. No, I was in class before, but first time after 4 years. Anyway, so he talked about it really great, and I'm going to revamp myself into the real estate again. So I'm going to get some new tools to see what the changes happen and what to do and what not to do.
Good. You kind of have a southern accent too, like me.
I don't know where I come from. I was like you all over the country. I was in Canada 17 years. I was in Colorado, so I do 17 years, so I know where I picked it up.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, appreciate it.
I have been in the business for 5 years as an agent, and my business has a tendency to do this. And when it's doing this, it's great. And when it does this, it's like, okay, scramble. And so I'm looking to find that internal, whatever it is, to get some sort of consistency at a high level.
Okay, I like that you said internal, what that is. I like that.
Well, because I think it is internal. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks.
My name is Genaro Gonzalez, and I've been in the business for 8 years. I'm new to Keller Williams, and I've been very excited about learning whatever I can learn from anyone in this room. And because I heard you were or are
I am in so
ball
much
coach,
trouble.
and that's why I wanted to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Thank you. All right.
Michelle Foss, I'm from Mercantile, and I'm here because I always learn these classes. Like, I took Rick's 36-12-3, and my business increased by almost 4 times
Woohoo.
since in 2 years.
All right.
So it's huge. But and I do a lot of training with new agents, and so I really like looking for ideas to help them grow their
Sure.
business.
Absolutely. Anything that I say today that you can't take and plop right in. Awesome. Cool. Why are you here?
Chris Hall, team leader. And I want to see how we can have some fun. It just sounded fun.
Yes,
Just
right.
Bring back the fun.
Are we
Right.
speaking up?
Bring back
Yeah.
the fun. Yeah. All right.
Michelle Pearson, and I'm here because I need to make a big change in my business so I can leave my teaching career. So
Okay.
the goal is the end of next school year, and if that's going to be a reality, I need to change the face of my business.
All
So
right,
I'm
very
going to
nice.
teach another year, and I don't want to do that.
Okay.
So,
Good. What do you teach?
kindergarten this year.
Oh, God, I
Yeah,
like it.
15
Okay.
years. So I love kindergarten. Love kindergarten, but I'm
I
tired.
get it.
I'm tired of teaching in that realm.
I get it. Totally get it. Yeah. Totally get it. Yeah. God bless you, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Nathan Mitchell, and me too. My career is I'm always in a roller coaster,
Okay.
so I like to try to maintain a level instead of going up and then coming back down to a crushing boom. I mean, I like to just try to maintain a level.
All right. Cool. Boy, I wish I had the magic pill for that.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Bro. I've been in the business going on 2 years now. I heard you were coming to town. I saw you on one of the bowl presentations, and I'm here today to learn all that I can because I like to become successful.
All right. Sounds perfect then. Awesome. Joy?
Hi, I'm Joy Yip. I've been in the business almost 10 years, and with KW, my anniversary is 4 years this August 1st. I'm really excited. Nikki Buckelew is our instructor when Gold first came to Northern California, and Nikki to me is one of the key focal points in the success of my business and the turning point. And so I went to lunch with an agent, was telling her about Gold. I came back, I opened my door, Nikki Buckelew.
She had no idea I was even in town.
I had no idea.
The strangest thing, right?
I had no idea.
She went, and I went, poof. And I showed up in her hallway.
And my lunch meeting with the agent was this. She goes, "What do you do for lead generating?" I said, "I wave my arms in the air and I envision what I want." And I literally came back to my desk and I opened my door and I thought I was in a dream. So I am here because there was a reason.
You're supposed to be here.
So I'm supposed to be
Did
here.
you get that
Marketing.
on video? Because
Marketing.
I really want that clip right there.
It was amazing.
Wave my magic wand.
I mean, I opened the door, I'm like,
You're sweet.
I'm not on Facebook, she's right here. so
Yeah.
honored.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm Danny Camarena. I don't know if they're introducing yourselves, but you were
We
my,
are.
you were my bowl coach
Yes,
also.
I know.
So I
Yeah.
needed to see you.
This is
again.
like a reunion of
And-
us me who haven't figured
and
that
then
out.
we're Facebook friends, and I didn't want you to unfriend me if you found out I was in the
Right, and I would have, totally would have.
And the main reason I came is because of, it's that roller coaster thing. I'm on my roller coaster right now, I'm on the way up. And I know what happens when I get here. And I don't want to see this side of it, so I'm getting back. I've been kind of stepped away from some of the training and stuff, and I need to move from that E to P, so I want to keep it, I want to go P.
Okay.
So I'll do that.
Go Pete.
Bathrooms that way.
Go
Yeah.
Pete. I get it. Thank you. All right, good.
Hi, I haven't met you, but I got a text yesterday, and I said, this lady has enthusiasm, and I'm gonna get my genius on.
That's awesome.
I'm Nancy Cole. I'm new to Keller Williams since January. I've been in new home sale and resale now going on 5th year in the roller coaster.
Cool. All right, glad you're here. Thanks, Rick. So, is it okay with you guys if we go with Chris Hawes' kind of goal for today and have fun, right? Because I really do. This is a small group, and I want you guys to get as much out of this time together as possible. I mean, I want for you all to feel inspired. I want you to feel enthusiastic and motivated, and maybe even a little confused. I'm totally okay with confused, by the way, because confusion creates questions, and questions creates answers, and sometimes more questions. And forward movement. That's all that does. So let's start with this as a concept. I want you guys to just kind of work with me here for a second. And what I'd like everyone to start with, preferably today, I don't know how this works. There we go. Is this right here.
Clean slate.
Yeah. Danny wins. Yay, Danny! Right, a clean slate, right? And because every single one of you already, you know what you've done, you know what works, you know all that. But what happens is if we focus on that, then we don't open our minds to the new stuff that comes, okay? Right? So we can kind of just leave prior learning at the door. And I say that only to say that you can't help but bring in old stuff. I mean, you're going to do that. But when you do it, I want you to look at it with new perspective. And I'll tell you what I mean by this, I guess, is just a little personal testimonial, if you will be okay with that. We were with KW for 16 years, something like that.
Close enough.
Something. And I was the bowl coach for a couple years and came out here for a couple different times. And it's amazing to me how, when we started our own coaching company, we only left Keller Williams because we knew we wanted to train on a more global level, and in order to do that, we knew we had to get out of our little box. Does that make sense? We wanted to expand kind of our market, and to be affiliated with any one company kind of creates a challenge if you want to coach with other companies. So suffice it to say, as we did that, what happened is we kind of started experiencing the same material that we had always experienced, by the way, because Keller Williams exposed us to so much. But when I would read it outside of the perspective of where I was in that role, it was a whole different ballgame. And I'm like, oh, that's not the way I read it the first time. Even MREA, the Million Real Estate Agent book, I picked it up a while back, just read the first chapter. Not even the chapter, it's the introduction, before chapter 1, I believe. And Gary tells a story in there, and I'm like, looking at my book going, it's even highlighted in the book. I don't remember the story, right? So what I mean is that sometimes what happens is we take all of our current knowledge and it's all kind of interwoven into what we're doing currently. And what I want you to do today is look at it differently. Fair enough? Okay. All right. So, how many of you guys have heard this book? I heard it's really pretty good. It's called The One Thing. Yeah, written by some dude I think we all know. Right? And how many of you have read it? And how many of you are in the process of reading it? And how many of you aren't going to read it? Because some people won't, and that's okay. I'm just asking. I don't care either way. Chris may, but I don't care. But what I know about the book is that the title says it all, right? The title says it all. And so I'm going to propose today, though, not to take away from anything Gary's written, but I want to add to something that Gary's written. Okay? So you've got your one thing. By the way, let's just do this real quick before I give you my my plus to this. Those of you who've read The One Thing, if you could give me a synopsis just from your perspective, what would you say that the one thing means? What does it mean? What's the point of the book?
To
From your
focus just on one thing and get good at it.
Focus on one thing and get
say
good at it.
no to all the other things that don't,
Okay, and say no to what else?
things that don't matter,
Things that don't matter.
or get somebody else to do.
Okay, or find somebody else to do those. Okay, good. What else? Anybody else have a different perspective of what it says?
Well, I just started reading it. I think what I'm getting from it is that the one thing can be something very small, but if it's done repeatedly, the energy that it creates and that ripple effect, becomes something great.
Yeah. Right? Absolutely.
So,
Good. Yeah, very well said. All right, good. Anybody else?
Opposite end is that one thing that is in the way that stops you from progressing too. If you can find out
Right.
the why.
Right, identify that.
Exactly, then it makes things just go into place.
Yeah, I know what mine is, by the way. It's called red wine. That's the one thing that keeps me from hitting my ideal weight.
I think I need some of that red
So
wine.
my one thing from me losing the last few pounds that I want to lose. Anybody else have hi? And you are?
Erin.
Erin. Hi, Erin. Hi, Nikki. Good, glad you're here. Okay, so anybody else have perspective on the one thing?
I think focusing on the things that matter, that are gonna make a difference,
Okay.
versus focusing on the things that can take up your time that aren't gonna make a difference.
Distractions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Chris, do you have a perspective you want to share? Or you agree? Have you read it?
Stop multitasking.
Okay, stop multitasking.
Do one thing.
Right.
There's no such thing as multitasking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Critical few, trivial many. Kind of,
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff is in the MREA too.
Yeah, oh yeah. This, by the way, this isn't new.
Yeah.
Right, this isn't new. He just wrote it in a different way. Maybe some people will hear it that haven't heard it before. But I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, this is the same message that we've been getting for a very long time. The one thing, most people, when I survey people and I ask them the question, what is the one thing? And they say lead generate. How many of you have heard that? Okay, so that's what I hear too. So as far as the one thing for your business, right, for your job, for your business. So since we're all here and we're talking about real estate, what I want to do is I want to propose, and anything I say or talk about, you can accept, reject, or modify, because you don't have to agree with me, and I'm okay with that because we're all critical thinkers. And as a matter of fact, if you don't agree and you want to add your perspective, I want to hear it because that's how we all learn. Okay, everybody cool with that? So, but this is my perspective only, and that is that the one thing is perfect. It really is. The challenge that I have is that a lot of people, when they say one thing, they say lead generate or whatever. And let's say, I was speaking with someone at lunch today, he said lead generate 3 hours a day. I said, well, what does that mean, lead generate? He said, I'm going to pick up the phone and call for 3 hours. I said, therein lies the problem. Call who? Say what? Then what? So we aren't thinking it through critically to, and this is what I don't call it, I'll tell you where it came from. Zone of genius equals okay, so what Gary says is exactly right. And by the way, he also says this, but nobody seems to hear this. So I'm just going to say it in different words today, right? So, matter of fact, we had a panel at Mega Camp some years back, a few years back, and he had up on the stage some mega agents or some top agents that had really excelled at a high level. One was on open houses, one was on first-time home buyers, one was on maybe luxury or something like that. I can't remember all of them. I do remember the first-time home buyer and the open house one. And what he was talking about was he was basically probing them. And he was, you know how Gary, or maybe y'all know, have seen Gary, right? He goes, all right, so if you did this, how often? Every day? How many hours? Every day? And what was he emphasizing? Consistency, right? Time on task over time. And in that person's case, that was their number one focus. That was their one thing, open houses, or their one thing was first-time home buyers. The challenge is people say, well, lead generation is my one thing. And they're calling for sell-by owners, and they're calling expires, and they're door knocking, and they're focused on luxury, and they're focused on commercial, and they're focused on short sales, and they're focused on. That's not one thing. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that. That's not one thing. That's 500 things packed into 3 hours of lead generation. Lead generation is not one thing. Lead generation is an umbrella for focusing on your one thing. Does that make sense? Okay, so what is your zone of genius? So zone of genius to me, and I got that term, and I love it, love it, love it. If you have not read the book, by the way, not that you need another reading assignment, but the book called Fire Starter Sessions by Danielle LaPorte. I've done a couple of classes, telecourses on this, and I picked up that book on the recommendation of a fellow coach and friend. And I listened to it on audible.com first. I didn't buy the hard copy, I just listened to it. And I'm listening to this lady self-narrate this book, and her name is Danielle LaPorte, and she's talking about her story and how she'd been corporate America, and she had really achieved high levels as an executive and whatnot, but that it wasn't in alignment with who she was. She reached a point where some of the things didn't align with her values. She was not only overworking herself, but she was having to make decisions that she felt like were not in the best interests of her personal self. Her and her business partner ultimately disbanded, and she either sold the company or whatever she did with it. But she basically just said, done. I'm not going to do that anymore. And she kind of went on a journey, right? It's a personal journey to figure out what is it she did want to do? What was her purpose? What was her big why, if you want to use that term? But what she figured out was that when we are in this zone of genius, we get in alignment, right? We get in alignment with who we are at our core. And when you're aligned with your true purpose and your true self and your behaviors follow that, you have a tendency to take inspired action. You do things, right? But when you're out of alignment, then number one, either you dread things, you don't do things, or when you do those things, it's not comfortable, and most people can't sustain that for a period of time. I felt that way about short sales. Fortunately, Chris and I had kind of, made our way out of the business, and we're full-time managers or coaches and doing other things by the time the short sales really hit. We were managing an office where agents had to deal with short sales, so we had to kind of learn it, but we weren't out in the field having to do the short sales. And I said to Chris, there ain't a chance in hell I'm doing short sales, forget it. You cannot I would go work at Home Depot before I would do a short sale. There was just something about the process of short sales that I watch agents do it, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. Chris would love it. He's a problem solver, puzzle person, Not me, I'm a people person. I like to nurture people, love people. Well, there are some people who did short sales, by the way, who found great passion with it, because they saw themselves helping a lot of people. I didn't get to see that side of it, so I never wanted to do it. But I think you heard Rick say that the class that I am teaching and taught this morning in Folsom and in Natomas tomorrow is called 5 Essential Strategies for Serving Seniors. Well, so Chris and I realized back in early 2000s what my zone of genius was. Now, we didn't call it that. We didn't know what that was. We didn't have a clue even about any of this. But ultimately, what it boiled down to was I had a passion. And my passion was basically advocacy and empowerment of seniors. And when I say seniors, we're talking not baby boomers, I'm talking about 83, 85, 86, people who really at that point needed someone on their side in a lot of cases. And not only did I have this passion for it, and I figured that out through doing some work in that field, and then what I also realized was I had a lot of knowledge about it. Right? I ended up getting degrees in gerontology, I got a master's degree in counseling, and those two things crossed over. And this, my friends, is what? Yeah, right? So when you find yourself, you have knowledge, either educated knowledge, life experience knowledge, whatever it is, you know your stuff. Then you could also call that a specialty once you make that declaration, I suppose, right? And you have a passion, and I'm going to call this center or core, okay, for those of you who want to use more spiritual terms. So this is more intellect, this is more here, that's more here. But you can tell I'm not an artist, that's definitely not my zone of genius. My friend Allison would have had flowers and hearts and that would have been really pretty. So hi Allison, if you ever see this, I sure could have used you. She's a graphic recorder and she does some amazing drawings. So, but do you guys see what I'm saying? Is if every single day you wake up and you know that your one thing is to do this, right? Your one thing is to do that, and you take inspired action on it, what do you think you'll get?
Results.
Results, right? So I'm going to only use mine as an example because, well, I know it better than any of them, right? Because it's mine. But then what I'm going to ask you guys to do is we're going to begin to apply it to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for basically your permission to coach you through a dialogue to help you maybe drill down to your zone of genius. Okay, fair enough? Okay, so be thinking about that. So how did this start and where did it end? Well, first of all, I told Chris, I said, I think this is where I want to be. I think this is where I need to be. I want to be serving seniors in our real estate business. And I was like, are you crazy? Have you lost your mind? You want to work with old people? But what Chris didn't realize at the time is he also has this too. He has this heart thing going on too. But he's very much different here than he is here. We share this, but guess what? His knowledge and his perspective on the specialty is very different than mine. But we both have it. His is different. This is the same. We still have this zone of genius that we share. He likes, like if somebody calls in and says, oh my gosh, the appraisal came in low. I go, oh, and he goes, all right, we'll fix it. Let me call somebody. I'm like, oh, thank God, right? Zone of genius. Fix the problem. Nikki Buckelew's zone of genius is, so you guys are ready to move. You guys really want to move. But you have all these challenges with having to downsize and all that. Let's fix that. Because see, I wanted to work with the people from here. He likes to work with the people here. Make sense? Okay. So what we did was we incorporated that zone of genius into our business. Now how does that show up? Okay, how does it show up when you start talking about your one thing? Well, for 3 hours every day, let's just use that as an example. I didn't know at the time that was kind of the timeline that you should follow. But I can guarantee you that every single day I got excited about going out and meeting people from the aging services field every single day. So I went out and I networked with people in the aging services field. I went to senior communities and I toured. I did talks and seminars for people about the downsizing process. I wrote articles about it. I went out and talked to people. Everything I talked about was all about my seniors' focus. It was all right here. But it wasn't one thing. It was networking. It was going out and meeting people for lunch. It was writing blogs. It was lots of things, but where did they all fall? Right here. So think about for a second, think about first-time home buyers. If you love first-time home buyers and you love helping them, the dream home kind of thing, right? And you have that here. And over here, you're really good at counseling people through that process. You know the process, you know how to get people creative financing that don't have credit, you know how to work with moms and dads who are a pain in the rear end, who are trying to tell their kids how to buy a house and all those things. You're good at that, and you're knowledgeable about it, and you have a heart, then you have a zone of genius. Well, you look for how many different ways can I apply my zone of genius out there that will create inspired action, right? So inspired action is what? Doing something because you want to or have to? Want to because you want to. Okay. So let's talk about your zone of genius. Right? By the way, if you looked at another area of my zone of genius, it is I'm very learning based and I'm very teaching based. So I'm like you, I love to learn. I'm always taking classes, I'm always reading books, I'm always listening to videos, and I like to turn around and I like to regurgitate that information to help someone else. Okay? So I like Daniel LaPorte's book. Now I go out and as many people as I can use concepts from that book to help, I do, just like Rick. Rick is very much a very similar personality in that regard. So I use that zone of genius to fuel my seniors business as well, right? I go out, I learn, and I teach it, and I do it. Follow me? So it all falls into that one thing, seniors business, but I did it from lots of different avenues. Okay. So how many of you are sitting there right now going, I don't know what my zone of genius is? Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back to the blank slate for a second. And I want you to go back to when you were like, say, I don't know, a younger kid, like kindergarten age even, or even pre-kindergarten age, but you were younger, and all of the things that you absolutely loved to do, that you could spend all your time doing them and having fun doing it. Like the whole day. You could spend the whole day doing it, and just, it's like all of a sudden you realize that it's time to go to bed. I want you to think about that for a second and work with me here, okay? And just make some notes about that. Make some notes. I know it's taxing some of you. You're like, really, that was a long time ago.
It was a long time.
Right? But I want you can all go back there. It's there. It's in the archive. So if you need to close your eyes and think about it, do that. But I'm going to give you about, I don't know, 60 seconds or so to conjure up what some of those things were. What did you really love doing? Who were you around? What did you know, what was your environment? Were you always in the kitchen with your parent? Were you always wanting to stir?
How many years did you say go back?
As far as you can. Young. I'd like for you to go young. And I'd like you to go pre-people telling you what you should and shouldn't do. Right? No, don't do that, that's not appropriate. No, don't do that, you shouldn't do that. I want you to go back to, or if you can't go that far back, the other way to do this is go back to your adolescence or kind of middle school years when you really wanted to do stuff because it was really natural for you and there were people telling you to stop doing it because it was annoying. Either one of those works. Or that you can't do it anymore because it's inappropriate. Be careful with that. I don't want to know everything. You guys didn't know you were going to have to do some work this afternoon. so I might get in trouble for saying this, especially since we're recording, so Rick, I'll ask your forgiveness in advance. I was doing a bowl in Dallas, Texas. One of the very first ones that we did, and one of the things that we talked about was, absolutely being true to yourself, right? Knowing what your values are, knowing what your goals are, being in alignment. That's not the word necessarily, and I had a girl come up to me after about week 5 or 6, towards the latter part of the program. She was on a team, and she was a buyer's agent, and she was really good. She'd done very well. I think she would have succeeded at a very high level, very talented. And she was really troubled, and she pulled me aside after the class, and she said, I just need a minute. And she said, I just don't know if real estate's right for me. And I said, really? I said, you're a natural at it. You're good at this. You seem to be doing well. She said, I am. And she said, but just something doesn't feel right. She said, I thought I would be good at it. I didn't have any trouble with it. She said, I like the people I'm working with, and they've done well. They've trained me and all this. And I said, well, what would you be doing if you weren't doing this? She said, well, jewelry. I'm like, jewelry? She said, yeah, they do those trunk shows, and they have the jewelry. And I went, oh, yeah, I've been to one of those. I said, you do that? I said, isn't that like multi-level marketing, network where you have to have people set up like Pampered Chef or something? She goes, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I said, really? That's your thing? She goes, oh. And I said, so, okay, just out of curiosity, I don't know, but how much money can you make doing that? And she said, well, I have an opportunity. She said, it's about $500,000 a year after the first year. And I went, really? Selling jewelry out of trunks? And she said, yeah. And I said, are you sure somebody's not trying to sell you a bill of goods? And she goes, no, actually, I did something very similar before, which is what led me to real estate. But she said, I did it before, but she said, here's the difference. She said, when I do that kind of thing with the trunk shows and the things, she goes, I get to go into people's homes, and she said, I get to interact with them, and she said, they try things on, and I get to tell them how pretty they look, and they get excited, and it's collaborative and fun and atmosphere. And she goes, I thought it would be very similar in real estate, but it's not. It's just me one-on-one, and sometimes they're not very happy about what they're having to do, and there's all these problems, and all that, and all of a sudden her energy just, and I said, so what do you want to do? She said, I don't know, I'm going to think about it. I said, okay, so here's the deal. If you hate what you're doing, and she said, no, I don't hate it. She said, but it just doesn't align with me, or whatever, whatever her word was. And I said, okay, I get it. So she came back after bowl, finished up bowl, and she said, I made my decision. She said, I'm going to go sell jewelry. And I went, oh, I'm in big trouble. Right, just coached somebody right out of the business. And within a month or two, she was on Facebook with me. She was posting stuff on Facebook about how she was having the time of her life. And she contacted me sometime later, and she said, I want to let you know that was the best decision I ever made. I couldn't have made it without you because I felt guilty leaving the business. Because she said, I felt like, as people had invested in me, people had done a lot of things for me, and it didn't feel good to me. And I said, what do you think the difference was? And she said, she said, it's interesting. She said, I just do what feels natural to me. And she said, when I'm doing what feels natural to me, I love doing it, and the money follows. How many of you agree with that? Mm-hmm. Right? And by the way, because she had made it in real estate, had I known what I know now, I could have helped her do the same thing in real estate. Mm-hmm. Right? So you guys, is that exciting to you?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to get out of real estate to be in your zone of genius, right? She could have done trunk shows and sold lots of houses as a result, by the way. If she wanted to. Now, not to say she would want to, but if that was even given, nobody ever gave her that as an option. So I was able to go out, and I did lots of free stuff. I did lots of talks and seminars and stuff that I didn't get paid to do, but guess what? It led me to opportunities where I got paid to sell houses. See, but as long as I was in my zone of genius doing it, I was being authentic. Can you guys tell when I'm up here, by the way, that I'm excited about being here? Yeah. Right? Could you tell in the video that I really like doing this? So if I came in and I said, well, Rick asked me to do it. Okay. Just sit down. Do you think my energy would be the same? No. And when you leave here, do you think if I had that energy, you'd be inspired, motivated, want to go out and sell more real estate? And do you think Rick would invite me back? No. why do people want to be in this class? Why do the people, I love the examples of the people who said, I'm here because of your energy. I'm here because I was in your class before. What you're recognizing isn't my knowledge. It's what? It's my energy. And every one of us have it. Now, not everyone bounces around like I do. My husband does not have this kind of animation in his life. He does not have it, and we don't want him to have it. We can't afford to have two of them.
Like yours.
You got mine, that's right. But when he's in his zone of genius and he's doing his thing, the other night we went to a concert thing in Austin, some friends, and some other friends of ours wanted to come last minute, but they said they were sold out. Tickets were sold out. Chris said, they're sold out? I said, yeah, Chris went. Surely not. And he disappeared. I'm like, where did he go? And Allison goes, oh, he's doing his thing. He came back, he said, done, they're coming. I said, they were sold out. He said, yeah. He understands, he knows how to do certain things, and when he's in his zone, he loves a problem. Give him a problem. Honey, I'm going to send you lots of problems today. It's something in your zone of genius. But you give him a problem, or you give him something to solve, or you give him a puzzle, and he can put it together like nobody's business, right? But if he had to do this every single day, he could do it, but it wouldn't energize him, and he probably wouldn't get invited back, or he probably wouldn't be as inspiring, only because, not because he doesn't have the knowledge, it's because it's not necessarily in alignment with who he is at his core. Okay? Follow me? So what I want to get to with you guys is who would like to share with, come on in, babe, here's a seat right up here. And don't take offense to my babe and honey, that's just Southern, okay? Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes people in California are like, honey, babe, what is she hitting on me? No. All right. All right. You're cute, but I was just being nice. So if you were to take, okay, so we're talking about zone of genius. And so what I gave them an assignment, so you can be caught up, is to think about the things when you were young, like pre-kindergarten age, that you loved to do, that you could do all day long every day, and you just found yourself, like, it just felt awesome to do that. Okay, so we think. All right, so who has something that they thought of that they'd like to share?
Mine was art and creative projects and performing.
Okay.
I used to do a lot of performances in front of family for whatever reason.
Cool. All right, tell me your name.
Erin.
Erin, that's right. Okay. So Erin, do you do any of that now? No. She's like, oh Lord. Right?
Not really.
Okay, so can we work on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally done that.
So performance. All right, so let me write this down here real quick. I want you guys to. By the way, let me ask you, Erin, did you love it? Can you remember back?
Yeah.
And did it feel natural?
Yeah.
Yeah. And was it experiential? I mean, did you just, it was like you could do it anywhere and it just felt natural to you, right? And was it organic? In other words, it wasn't something that you learned or were trained to do, it just came natural.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, that's another way of saying it feels natural, I guess, right? So, do you remember when you stopped doing that?
Probably after high school.
Okay. Probably, can you really pinpoint it?
Absolutely after high school.
And so after high school, about when? Like right after high school?
Well,
or
probably junior year high school.
Okay, so junior year high school. All right. So I'm going to write this down. So performing, what kind of performing here?
We just
Nobody's going to judge.
We did little dance performances or little skits or whatever.
Yeah.
Stupid
Show us.
No.
All right, great. Oh, that's awesome. All right, what else? You said art stuff?
Art, really into art, drawing, painting.
Okay. And did you stop doing all that?
Except for the occasional wedding, pretty much.
Really? All right. Well, no, I'm glad I asked. Okay. So if you were to, if you could think of why you stopped doing it, could you put your finger on why you stopped doing that?
Life got in the way, I guess. It was, your everyday duties, you're doing it, and you get sucked up into what's going on in your world, and those seemed like extra.
Okay. Did you get a job?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go to college?
Nope.
No? Okay. Did you get married? Have kids?
At some point, yeah.
Along the
Buy
way?
a house, yeah.
Okay, all right. So, you still like doing those things in your imagination? If you don't do them physically, but in your imagination, does it still sound like something you'd like to do that was fun?
There's some aspects of that I sort of kind of do in my business, like some of my videos, and I can see how it relates, or creating graphics for this stuff. I love that stuff.
Okay. Is there any part of that you miss, that you go, oh, I missed that? I could do that all day, every day if I could get paid to do it.
Just the creating part. I love it. I get lost in that.
All right, so it's the creating part. So note to self. How many of you in the room are creators? Who do you like to create? I'm a creator and a completer. All the crap in the middle drives me crazy. Create, complete. Happy, happy, happy. Thank God I married a middle person. He's a completer. I say, we're going to go teach in Sacramento. And he goes, great. And I go, I think it's on, what's today? Wednesday? Wednesday. I think it's on Wednesday. And he goes, well, who asked you? And I said, Rick Vandermine. Where's it going to be? I don't know. What are you going to teach? I don't know yet. Well, so how many people? I don't know. Figure that out. All I know is I decided I'm going to do this, and I showed up here today. Everything else in the middle, he handled. Why? Because my zone of genius is creating, and then this experience. This is what I love. All this other minutia in the middle, yeah, right? Drives me nuts. That's what Gary talks about when he talks about leverage. Okay? So creating. Aaron, when you create, how do you feel? Let me do it up here.
I do get lost in it. I get a high off of it.
Oh, I love the word high. Okay. No, seriously, right?
Natural high.
Yeah.
Natural.
Yeah. What do you think I have right now? I'm drinking water, but I have a high that you guys are laughing and having fun and that we're here together, right? It's a natural high. When you can get a high off creating, you're in your zone of genius. Now the question is, how do we convert this into a real estate high, right?
Right.
How do we take your creative juices, whether it be in art, painting, graphic design, dancing, skits, or whatever, and we go, how do we convert that? Okay? So would you say you're good at it?
Yes.
Creating these things and doing these things? Okay. And you're pretty passionate about it? Mm-hmm. You like it? Okay. Do you like teaching any of that stuff? Yeah. Okay. And so if there was one thing you could do as it relates to the things you enjoyed before, if there was one thing you could just do all day long and get paid for it, what do you envision yourself doing? Now I'm not talking about real estate. I'm just saying outside of real estate, if you could do one of these types of things that you named, and you could do it all day long, you could make as much money doing it as you could in real estate, what would it be? What would you spend your time doing all day, every day? And you go, my God, this is heaven. And people are paying me to do this. Lots. They're paying me lots.
This is where I get stuck.
Okay, no, you're not stuck.
Okay.
It's okay. You don't have to come up with an immediate answer. Nobody's, what you think?
I like to build things. I like to come up with a concept, have it go from my head and watch it come out the other end and think, that was, you know what I mean? Come up with some off the wall, whatever it is, and just build it.
Give me an example of something you've done like that. Either past, long past, or recent past. Doesn't matter. You can think of something.
I brought a speaker here.
Okay.
It started as an initial conversation, and I was able to bring a mega agent here and raise a decent amount of money for a family. And it was very rewarding to sit and figure out what it's gonna look like and how is it, what is it gonna be, and then to actually sit and look at 160 people sitting in the room going, wow, that was kinda cool.
All right. Yeah. How many of y'all participated in that? Was it pretty cool? Mm-hmm. Was she in her zone of genius when she was doing all that? Can you remember her? How could you tell? How could you, those of you who've been around here and you know when she was doing all that, is there anything you could say, oh my God, Erin is like on today?
She was glowing.
Yes.
I mean, her aura was just amazing, and the family that, and raising the money for the family, and she kind of took it on her own, and it was like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, when people are in their zone, people go, wow, right? So now how do you convert that, right? That's the question. So here's one of the interesting things about Zone of Genius, and also about the one thing for that matter, is what does it take to sell real estate really? At the minimum level, if you were to really break it down to the bottom line, how do we get a listing or a sale?
Connecting with people.
Connecting with people. The more people you connect with, what happens?
More real estate stuff.
More business.
The more opportunities you have,
Builds your confidence.
the more it builds your confidence, absolutely. But the more opportunities you have, the more what?
Leads.
Leads you have. The more leads you have, the more sales. Is assuming that you're doing your job well, you could convert. Okay. So I'm going to make an assumption in this room that you're all very well equipped to sell real estate. You all know how to write a contract. You all know how to do a listing presentation. You all know how to sell real estate. So is it safe to say that the more people you connect with while you're in your zone of genius who recognize you as a realtor, that you are expanding your opportunity?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when you have those opportunities, while you're in your zone of genius, to say to people how happy you are to be able to do this to fund your real estate business, right? And that basically real estate funds, sorry, the opposite way, real estate funds me being in my zone of genius, right? The only reason for me to make sales in real estate was so that I could keep dealing with the seniors, so that I could keep going out and talking to them. If I stopped selling real estate, I didn't sell any houses, I'd need to go get a JOB, right? Well, my husband would not be really happy with me either, right? But the fact is, if you're in your zone of genius in your real estate business, and your real estate business is really allowing you to do more of what you're having fun doing, then you're going to do more business, okay? So let's use that particular event as an example, and what if we were to go back and rewind pre-event and apply the principles that I'm talking about to see if there was a way that might have gotten you more opportunities for real estate sales, okay? And this is where I run into trouble. Most people go, ooh, I don't know if that felt very good, or ooh, that feels uncomfortable, or that's a little weird. So this is where I'm asking you to go back to that blank slate, and if you feel a pang of anxiety, or you go, ooh, that's a little different than what I'm used to, or I've heard, or somebody's told me, I want you to write it down. I want you to tell me what the feeling is you have and where it originated. Okay, because there'll be people who say to you, you can't do that all the time and make money. And I'm going to say you can if it's done strategically. Okay? So Aaron, what was the money being raised for?
I found a random family on Facebook that needed help.
Okay. And so they just needed help financially?
She had stage 4 cancer, had 9 kids, and during all that was out serving the community. So
wow.
She just was a gem of a person that needed
You
help.
found her on Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the trigger for you to say, I'm going to do this?
As soon as I realized that our sponsors were covering the money, the cost of the event, and that we were charging people to get in there for $15, and I realized, you know, we're not here to make money off our agents, so why don't we take this money and put it to good use?
Okay.
And it was such a low price point for everyone. The $15 didn't matter to everyone else, but the impact that we could do with that money was
okay. Right. So you took, I have this desire to help somebody. You saw an opportunity to fund this, and you put the two together and you made a proposal. Is that what I understand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then it went through. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you reach out into your sphere of influence about this fundraiser?
yes.
Okay. And what was your message to them?
I reached out to Facebook to find the family.
Okay, so you looked specifically for somebody to do this.
I reached out to ask if anyone knew of a family that was local that could use help.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, so once you decided though, and you said, we're gonna help this family.
Okay.
Did you go out and talk to the people in your database, your family, your friends, your past clients, anybody in your life to help raise the money?
I talked to agents and market centers and to get butts in the seats to raise the money to get.
Okay, for that event?
Yes.
Right, okay, good. So what if you would have taken that a step further and said, I'm gonna talk to everybody in my life, not just realtors, and let them know about what I'm doing? Do you think they might have donated money too?
Now that you say that, yeah.
Okay, so don't get depressed on me.
No.
Okay.
I'm not.
Right, but so what I want you to recognize is that philanthropy is one of the #1 ways to raise money. You guys know a guy named Lance Armstrong? Mm-hmm. I mean, not that he's the best example in the world. I'm not talking about what he did, but I am saying that, you know, people gave to the Live Strong thing, right? Because they wanted to give. So when you as a realtor go out and you begin to do things like this, matter of fact, Judy Figure in our office in Oklahoma City is after the Moore tornadoes went through Oklahoma and wiped out that whole neighborhood, there was a senior citizen there who lost her home. Totally wiped it out. She had no insurance, no way to rebuild. She didn't know what she was going to do, nothing. So Judy identified her and she said, like you, I want to help this lady. So she started asking around. She's like, what can I do to help this lady? She has gotten, basically they're going to be able to fund that lady's house to be rebuilt. They're going to escrow money for her taxes and insurance for several years in the future. They're going to furnish it. And here's the thing about people like Erin that I love, and I want you guys to be clear, I'm not looking to exploit things like that. I'm not. I am looking at you though to say you're missing an opportunity to let other people help you help others. Okay? And it gives you real estate exposure at the same time, and it's not overt, it's a byproduct, right? So Judy, I said, okay, so you've been talking to realtors and Keller Williams Cares giving money and this, that, and the other. I said, but have you talked to the people in your neighborhood, your sphere of influence, your past clients? And she goes, well, no. I said, they need to know what you're doing. This is special. This is important. People want to help. I said, we need to put a press release out. We need to get her name out in the paper. Judy Figure is sponsoring this thing. She's a real local realtor. Local realtor helps senior woman rebuild after tornado. Do you think that might give her a little exposure? Is anybody against that? No. Okay, because here's the thing. We all do really cool stuff, but what happens is our clients have no clue. The community has no clue. They think you're just another realtor. Well, you're not just another realtor. You have this heart that people will connect with because you're in your, say it with me, zone of genius. People are going to go, if I'm going to sell my house, I'm going to sell my house with her because she helps people in our community. And I saw it in the newspaper. And they're going to call her 3 years later because she touched their heart while she was in her zone of genius. And you will not know most of the time why those people show up. You won't have the opportunity for somebody like Joy to say, Nikki, I'm here because you're here. They're going to call you and you're going to say, where did you find my name? And they're going to say, what? I don't know your name. But it was because of something that you did that touched their life while you were in your zone of genius. But we don't tell enough people. So press releases, blogs. Do you know that this is what we're doing? By the way, would you like to help? Would you like to donate $1? Because that's a touch. Okay, so Gary Keller, let me digress. Gary Keller talks about 33 touches a year, right? What do you think the best touches are? The ones where you're asking for business or the ones where you're giving back?
Giving back.
Right? If you have a project, a pet project is what I would call that, where you're doing something, then that to me is a big excuse to contact your sphere of influence because you're giving back. You're contacting your sphere and you're saying, you know what, hey, this is Nikki with Keller Williams Realty, and you know that I'm calling today because we have a special project going on. We're raising money for a family. And here's what's going on. You're not obligated in any way, shape, or form, but if you'd like to donate, I would love to come by and either pick up the check or you can call me and let me know how to manage that. They're going to call you up. They're going to go, oh, I'd love to donate. How do I do that? You're going to say, you know what would you be willing to give? How would you like to do it? Would you like to write a check? I'll come by and what? Pick it up. Hadn't talked to them in 2 years. What have you just done? A touch. Then what you do after the project is you follow up with a mail campaign, thanking everybody in your sphere, people that donated and people that didn't. It doesn't matter. I want to thank every single person that contributed, whether it was a prayer, or whether it was $1, or whether it was a donation, or whether it was whatever. Does that make sense? So see, when you do those kind of things, Mo Anderson built her business, guys. Built her business on going out and publicizing how she was helping people. Gary Keller built his business on, I think this is an interesting thing. Chris, correct me if you think I'm wrong.
Okay.
Because I don't want to misstate anything. But what if I had to ask, how many of you guys know who Gary Keller is? And how many of you know him personally? Okay, good. So I was going to tell you guys that you can't answer. But if you had to guess what Gary Keller, based on what little you know about him, or whatever means you know about him, what would you say his one thing is?
Music.
Music, okay? So I'm going to write that down.
What do you mean by music?
Well, he loves to play, he's in a
Play.
band.
Okay, he loves to play music.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I was last year
watching a video of him last night for whatever reason, and he loves to help people. He loves to coach people.
Okay, so be more specific.
Growth.
I'm gonna write coach, right, and growth. When you say growth, Danny, what do you mean?
Grow personally.
Personal
business,
growth. Okay, right, thank you. Alright, so I'm gonna write personal growth. And you said coach.
And really pushes, it was weird that this all was coming together, but,
No, imagine how that happens.
he's just about pushing people's boundaries. Like, if you can do this, you can do this, and
And
there's
thinking
no
big.
reason why.
Right, exactly, thinking big, right? So I'm gonna put here, I'm gonna put topic, okay? Anybody else want to venture a guess? There's no right or wrong answer here, by the way, we're just gonna talk about it. Chris Hawk, what would you say? You've seen him speak, come on, you've been around.
Lead generation. That's all he talks about.
That's all he talks about,
What's his one thing?
but yeah, what's his one thing?
He likes to spend time with people that he likes.
And who
Small
does he
group of
typically like? Who do you see him spending time with?
His top people,
Okay, right.
like
And what's
really
he
spend
doing with
time
them?
with them.
What does he do?
Fly, fishing, you know, just different things.
Okay,
Just-
so what would you say his priority is with them?
Getting to know them. Making them better.
Just
Growing.
hanging out,
pushing them.
quality time, you know.
He's like an educator. You're right, in that. But I remember reading.
Okay,
That's why the ALC was created.
guys, his one thing, for most of his career anyway, until recently, he's kind of shifted a little bit, right? His son graduated high school, you kind of notice Gary's changed a little bit. But I will tell you, I don't think he's ever really said it, Chris, has he? Yeah, maybe he has.
Numerous times, over and over again.
Yeah.
His one thing is educating
Yeah,
and teaching,
right.
period.
So here's, I was gonna say, I hadn't heard him say it, but I was just saying, okay, so, alright. Here's where, so you guys look at this, personal growth definitely comes, because you have, in order to do this, by the way, really well, you gotta do this too, right? And so coaching falls under that, personal growth falls under that, and playing music is definitely, as far as his one thing goes, in his personal hobby life, I would say that's probably it. Okay, but if you were looking at just business life.
I thought you were talking about personal, yeah.
Oh, sorry, no, personal. Personal's different. See, Gary's one thing, he will say John and his wife, from the very beginning, when John was born, we were with the company, and let me tell you something, nothing came before John and Mary, ever. He flew out, he did an event, he was back. He didn't ever spend, a lot of time away, because that was his one thing in his life. Okay, but I wanna talk about how it applies to your business here, because in your personal life, you gotta figure that out too. I don't think we have time today to do that. But education, teaching, consulting. Here's how Gary Keller built his business from one little office to 70-some thousand agents, you guys included. You ready? He went out and he found agents that had a desire and who were willing to take action. That was his big criteria. And he educated them, he taught them, he consulted with them, which meant they had to bring something to the table. He wasn't just about let me give. They had to go out and implement, and they had to take part in the growth process. You follow me? He would go out and do that with people that, he did that with, what's his name, Russell Shaw, for 15 years that I know about, and Russell Shaw never came to Keller Williams. But that's Gary's one thing. And when he's in his zone of genius, when he's on stage and he's leading panels and when he's talking to agents and he's leading masterminds, he is in his zone of genius. And people want to be around people who are what?
In their zone of genius.
In their zone of genius. And people will go, that Gary Keller. I don't know. Gary, by the way, is not a very likable guy. He's not. He has no, he is not bubbly in personality. He's not going to give you a big hug. Gary couldn't care less about all that. Gary's about this. Does that make sense? And that's okay, because he knows what his zone is. Now, let's flip over to, Chris.
But before you go on, I mean, you look at the fact that he has a real estate franchise that has 70,000 agents in it, and you would think that maybe running it would be important to him and be closer to his number one thing. But he's decided in his own mind that that's always gonna be his number one thing, and someone else can handle that. And he's done that for,
Long time.
22 years now.
Yeah. Yeah, Gary didn't run the company. You guys know that,
He,
right?
he turned it over to Mo in 91, 92,
Right.
91 or 92. And then since then, it's been
Right.
to somebody else.
When he tells the story about Dane Henyon firing him, if y'all haven't heard that story, his consultant basically said, you need to fire yourself. And it was because he needed somebody that was in their zone of genius doing that. Does that make sense? They didn't need Gary Keller doing customer service, I promise you, or answering the receptionist. Bad idea. You know what he would say? You didn't lead generate today? You're screwed. The door's locked. Don't come back. Every time. A married tenant and them go, no, wait. We gotta be patient. We'll get them there. And he goes, whatever. You know, I'm sure. I don't know. I've never seen him do that. But in my mind, I imagine him going, whatever. Either do it or don't do it. I don't care. I've done my job. Does that make sense? So for you, Aaron, what I'm seeing is that you've got this passion for whatever it is creating, and you've got to get out there and do it more. Now, here's what Danielle Laporte talks about in her zone of genius. She says, you should be in your zone of genius 80% of the time.
That's great.
Great, yeah. You know why? Because when you're not in your zone of genius, you're draining your energy. I realized this in the last few weeks. I'm a creator myself. I love that creation process. Like I said, I don't like the middle part, I like the end part. Well, guess what? We created this 2-day training program for senior specialty. And it's a manual. It's 8 sections long, and it's got lots of content in it. What do you think has to happen to get it out of my head and onto a piece of paper and in a manual?
Hand it over to somebody else.
Lots of this middle crap, right? Lots of editing and graphics and recordings and manuals and literally my friend Allison said, Nikki, you gotta take a break. You're killing yourself. And she knew it. And you know, I hadn't taught a class, I don't know, for a few weeks. I had like this gap in time where all we were doing was finishing content. And by about 2 o'clock in the day, I'm like, oh, I need to go to bed. But when I'm here, I taught this morning, I'm teaching now, we're gonna go have drinks with Rick, we're gonna go meet another agent and talk with him, and I'm like, what's next? Why? Because when you're in your zone of genius, you are getting energized. You're getting energy. Think about, if you were to think about the universe, and I may have you, I don't want to step on any toes, so I'm going to be very politically correct here. But think about spiritually, whether you're a God person or not, higher power or not, doesn't matter, higher power, God. If you were to say, okay, this is my energetic source, and when I'm in alignment with my energetic source and I'm doing what I was intended to do, which by the way, God didn't intend us to do anything that didn't feel good, I promise you that. And if it feels good, then I'm in alignment, and guess what? I'm going to have more energy because there's an infinite source of energy. But what happens is I step out of here and I go, yeah, I'm going to do something that's not in alignment with source. I'm going to do something that is actually Danny's zone of genius, not mine. And I know I really suck at it, and I don't really like doing it. It doesn't really feel very good, but I'm going to do it anyway. Guess what? I have no energy recharge. All I'm doing is burning energy. I don't have a recharge. Does that resonate with you guys?
Yes.
Okay. So why did I ask you to figure out what you did when you were little?
Are we supposed to go back to
'Cause it
what
was
we
fun.
like doing?
Because it was fun.
It was fun.
When we were little, we just did what was natural to us. You guys want to hear a funny story? I love telling the story because I have to think about it every time I do. My mom had a table in the dining room, and we had Christmas at our house one year. They had remodeled the house, done a bunch of stuff, and they wanted to show it off, and we had a pretty modest little house, and it had this table and chairs. For Christmas, I got one of those little plastic microphones, you know, and I was probably 7 or 8. And my mom had this console stereo with the big albums, and I loved Tanya Tucker. I was a country kid, and I had long hair way down here. Tanya Tucker had long hair. So I decided I was going to give a concert to the family. And so Mom said, all right, well, where do you want to give the concert? And I said, on the table, on the stage. And she said, you don't stand on the table. It's not appropriate. And I'm like, but that's the stage. Right? That's my stage. And she said, well, all right. So up on the table, I barefooted. Up on the table I went. And I gave a concert to the family. And by the way, guys, I don't sing well. I do not. I mean, I can sing okay, but I'm not like talent. But I had fun doing that. And then all through school, I like to talk. Anybody else like to talk? And all through school, I got in trouble for talking. to tell people what to do. I'm kind of bossy. But it's usually for their own good, right? So guess what I grew up to be? A speaker, trainer, coach. What do I get to do for a living when I'm in my zone of genius? I get to perform. I get to entertain people. I get to tell them what to do. Matter of fact, people pay me to do that. Right? I'm in my zone. And I can look back and attach all through my life the things that came natural to me that I loved doing. And sometimes people do want me to do them because in school they don't really like you to entertain and talk a lot and tell people what to do. They don't like it. It's not good. Matter of fact, they usually label it as ADD now. And they give you medicine for it. They probably would have given me medicine for it as a kid. Because I couldn't sit still. So Aaron, you go back and you say, okay, this is what I love to do. How do I incorporate that into my life? You either do it more, or you find a way to do it as a lead generation source. So I said earlier, I like to entertain and train. So I would go out to senior communities and I would entertain and train. Every single time I went in and did an educational series there, I got closer to the people there who then later referred me business. 10 to 12 referrals a month from senior communities for doing what I love, which is educating and training people. Right? Does that make sense? Okay, who else wrote something down? Chris.
I used to like to beat up my younger brother. I turned 5. No,
Great. That's why you're a team leader now.
I liked,
I get it. It's perfect.
I did enjoy doing that. Just building things, taking things apart,
Taking things apart.
figuring out how they work.
Yep. Okay.
You know, getting in a lot of trouble doing that. Breaking things.
Yeah. Were you
Electronics, you know.
Right.
Kid physics.
Kid physics.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
And so now, when you look at that, you go, okay, so
Troubleshooting.
are you
fixing things.
doing those kinds of things in a grown-up kind of way
Yeah.
80% of the time in your life? Yeah? Okay. So as a TL, right now as a TL, do you get to play with technology? Do you get to troubleshoot all day long? Yeah. Is there anything that you're not, is there any time you're not in your zone of genius?
Sometimes.
Okay. And what would that be? What would you be doing if you're not in your zone of genius?
Just low energy.
Right.
What would I be doing?
Yeah, what would be those tasks?
Oh, like handling complaints, you know, to come in and
Yeah, because that
customer
requires dealing
service.
with people.
Customer service, yeah.
Right.
Customer service.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. So who should be doing that for
do
you?
it.
Who should
but,
be
you
doing
know,
that for you?
Not for that long.
Right. Who should be doing that
Staff.
for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So
But
as
sometimes
agent,
it gets to me, you know. Sometimes. Yeah.
you could do that for a short period of time, but if you had to do it for a long period of time, you'd say you could take this job and shove it because I need to be in my zone of genius 80% of the time, right? Does that make sense? I thought, by the way, I was a team leader for a very short time. I thought the job description of a team leader was to coach and train an agent. And then I got there and realized that a lot of it was having to go out and get new agents to come. And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that. No, if I can just teach and train, we're all good, but I don't have to call people I don't know and ask them to come. I'm not doing that. That just wasn't my deal. It wasn't my gift. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, who else has something?
I was a really girly girl up until, I like to play with dolls and paper dolls and coloring.
What were you doing with the dolls and the paper dolls?
Dressing them, Barbie dolls, baby dolls, and that kind of stuff, and collecting stuffed animals, and I was very close to my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and my cousins. Going to church and feeding the ducks at, we lived in San Francisco, go to the park and feed the ducks at the church. So I had a real family oriented, growing up, and just little girly things.
Okay. How does that translate into current day life?
I still like to dress. I dress dolls, I dress myself.
All right, good. And so when you think about when you think about the zone of genius, right? Remember earlier we talked about the 2 circles, and so there's the specialty or the knowledge, right? So remember, it can't just be things you like to do, right?
I have the passion. With the real estate industry, I did new homes, and I loved it.
And what did you love about it?
I had my own little office, I had my models, I was on stage. My customers came to me. They, were at the time when we had to babysit the escrow 46 months out because we were building. And I became top producer in 3 years. I was top 5% for 8 years out of the years I worked through homes.
And what were you doing for the majority of the time when you were in that space?
I was
Like 80% of your day, what did it do?
hostessing people that came in, walking them through models, demonstrating, driving them around the community, sharing all about the company, finding out about them. I
Yep.
had stuff for the kids while the parents were at the desk, balloons and stickers, and we made cookies, we had coffee, broke bread when we did our
Think she likes to
concerts.
entertain?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, and I'm starting to knock doors on those old customers.
Okay,
and
well, wait,
all-
stop. Stop knocking doors for a second. All right. That's not a bad idea, by the way, you can do that. But your zone of genius, did you guys see her?
Mhm.
What did you notice about her when she was talking about the
She's
nuance?
all excited, and she came home vibrant.
Oh, she's like, oh, and you can see the picture?
Yeah.
I can see the cookies.
Yes.
Smell the
Well, I
cookies.
introduced that.
Okay,
I
yeah.
said, you have to have soda or something when you write a contract.
So how do you replicate that? So how do you replicate that as a form of lead generation? I'm gonna make you guys help me here. How do you replicate what she just talked about? How all the things she loves to do, not necessarily the process, not the new home sales process, but the things about that she loved. How could you see her incorporating that into her now current day residential sales business?
Just open houses.
Open houses.
Serve your cookies.
Yeah, put cookies out and take care of them, and, entertain them and then educate them.
Entertain. Here's the thing, if you love to entertain, you should entertain at least once a week. Large groups, or groups that make you comfortable. I know some agents who, they absolutely built their business on entertainment. They host cocktail hours, they host Christmas parties, they host every holiday party that you can
We
think
have a
of.
couple here.
Do you? And people love to come, right? People love to come. And then why do you think they love, if people aren't coming, by the way, why do you think they don't come? They don't like you. They don't like the experience. What creates an experience for somebody?
The company,
You have to have
people.
a theme.
I don't care if you have a theme or not. People showed up today, and you guys had not a clue what to expect, did you?
No.
Why did you show up today, most of you? You said it earlier. It was something that was built up about energy. Come and have fun. People came because somebody said, this is what Nikki's good at, so you guys showed up. If you said, tell me your name again, Jan. So if somebody said, Jan's having a party, I'd go, you should go to that party. Because Jan rocks parties. She has cookies, and she does all this, and she decorates, and by the way, she dresses really cute, right? You're gonna attract a certain client, by the way. You guys understand that? You aren't gonna get to work with every client, because my husband would go, yeah, the cookies do not turn me on. Go ahead, right? Depending on how to come. But what I'm saying is, your zone of genius is gonna cause you to attract a certain kind of client. Gary Keller attracted learning-based people to his company. Why? Because his zone of genius is teaching and training. People who are not learning-based do not come to Keller Williams. If they do, they don't stay usually. Due to no fault of their own or no judgment, it's just that's the company he created in his zone of genius. What are you creating? We have 10 minutes. What I want you to do right now is I want you to take your pen, I want you to get a blank sheet of paper. And I want you to, and you may or may not come up with this in the 10 minutes, but I at least want to get you started. And I want you to take something, and I want you to incorporate it into your day-to-day life. I'll give you an example, and then I'm going to let you start. There was a gal in one of my classes a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about zone of genius. It was totally out of context, but it came up. And I said, what do you love to do? If you could do it all day, every day, and get paid for it, lots of money, more than you get paid for real estate, what would you do? She said, oh, I bake pies. She would bake pies. Well, really, what kind of pies? And she goes, any kind of pie. I just love it. So what do you love about it? And she says, I love it when people eat it and they go, oh, this pie is awesome. I said, so how do you use pies to help you sell real estate? She goes, I don't. I said, how often do you bake pies? Oh, not very often. Holidays now. I'm like, bake more pies. Now, how many of you could help this person from Kansas City create a plan in her business to use pies to help her make more connections with people? Yeah? Not hard. Matter of fact, a girl over here, Elaine, said, she was sitting here and she goes, this is awesome. She says, you take a pie and you cut it up and you say, have a little slice of heaven. And da-da-da, and it was like, oh my gosh, where's all this coming from? She started using the pie as a graphic image, and the next thing you know, she had a new logo, a pie logo, that had to do with real estate. It was, I put the pieces of pie, I put the pieces of real estate together like pie, something, something. Anyway, it made total sense to me at the moment. Now I can't think of it because I'm not that creative. So she at the end of the thing, she left and she goes, I'm gonna go home and bake a pie. I said, what are you gonna do with it? She said, I'm gonna take it to one of my past clients. So now she's gonna start making pies. I said, you don't have to bake big pies, by the way. You can make lots of little bitty pies. And you can take them to people. And here's what's interesting, it opens conversation. So here's your assignment for the next, we're gonna take about 7 minutes and then I'll do a debrief before we leave. What I want you to do is I want you to think about something that you would do every day, because it's fun to do. And I want you to think about one way, just one, that you could do it as a part of your daily real estate routine that would create more opportunities for you. I'm not saying it should create a lead. I'm not saying it's going to generate a for sale by owner, none of that. I'm just going to say, how would you use it in your business to create another opportunity to talk to more people? Okay? How would you use it to create another opportunity to talk to more people? Struggling. You did it? Okay. Anybody like pets? Anybody like love dogs, cats? Any particular pet?
I like dogs.
Somebody else. Is anybody a musician? Anybody love playing an instrument or singing? Anybody have a hobby that they find themselves just getting absorbed in all the time?
Zumba?
Huh?
Zumba?
Zumba, that's awesome.
And how do you talk to people about real estate when you're Zumba?
We'll talk about that.
Put on your shirt. Okay, so I have one for you. I love to paint, and that was my education was art. So how would I tie that in? Oh my gosh. Because I have a real creative side, but sometimes I get a little obsessive.
Okay, that's right. So do you know other people? Do you know galleries and art dealers and things like that? What if you were to host an art showing and be a sponsor of it as an agent, and invite all your sphere of influence to an art gallery opening or a showing of a specific person's art, your own art?
Okay, but I'm entitled, so how would I create that? Because
You're entitled?
in California we have restaurant.
Partner with me.
I thought about that at
So you're a
our
title
office,
agent?
but yeah, so
All right. Yeah.
we have a conflict with the Department of Insurance.
So you're actually wanting to appeal to realtors, right? That's what you're appealing. You're appealing to realtors, not the public. So we had to go and complicate it.
I'm sorry, but
No,
my
you're right.
question is art or like creative design, and then I.
What do you like to draw or paint?
Abstract art.
Okay.
Yeah, tag, flag buses and stuff. No, and
Well,
I did an office and we did, like, my whole theme was going green, like recycle, reuse, repurpose, the whole energy conservation, I stained the concrete floors, we fix, everything. And I did all the art out of like recycled canvases and we painted all the art.
that you make yourself, as long as it doesn't have monetary value?
No, I can't.
You can't give them
It
a
can't be
gift.
over $10. And I would hope my art is not
Yes, do you sell your art though?
No.
Okay, well, if you don't sell your art,
No, I
then,
couldn't. I mean, I could, I've been asked and I've had approached to do commission work, but
no, okay. So let me come back to that,
Okay.
because I certainly don't,
Sorry,
I don't know the rest of the laws well enough to be able to address that. But anything, by the way, again, let me go back to and say this, because remember that when you're in your zone of genius more frequently, people are attracted to you, right? So let's take giving people something out of the equation. Let's just assume for a second, none of you are gonna give anybody anything, buy anything, any of that. If you're painting regularly, you want people basically to experience that, or experience you experiencing that, if possible, right? So, Facebook is such an amazing thing, right? My friend Allison is a graphic reporter, and she draws these beautiful, and she doesn't, it's not her zone of genius, she says she doesn't really want to make money doing it. I think she could make millions doing it, but that's not what she loves to do. She loves to coach. So what she does is she takes her drawings and she puts them on Facebook with these nice little quotes on them, and people are attracted to her. She's not coaching them, she's just posting her art. And people will call her and they'll look up her profile and they'll go, I don't know you from Adam, but I love your pictures, I'd like to coach with you. So if you have realtors who are following you, right, and they're seeing your art and it's popping up every day, the pieces that you've done, even, by the way, just insignificant little things, like sometimes she'll draw this stupid little stick figure that says something in a bubble that's really cute, and I'm like, really? I can't even draw that. Right? But my point is, you've got to expose people to you being in your zone of genius. It doesn't necessarily have to directly be given or pertain to them. Rick knows that I'm in my zone of genius even if I'm not here. And so when Rick thinks of somebody he wants to come coach or train, what do you think he does? He calls on me because he knows that this is my zone of genius. He doesn't call on me because I called him and said, hey Rick, do you need a speaker? So your realtors are, exactly. So what happens, it becomes a lead receiving instead of a lead generating.
yeah, I like that.
And that's what I love the most is that, and when I was in my zone of genius doing what I was doing with seniors, people would call and they say, I heard about you. It's my favorite call. I heard about you. I heard about your energy. Your energy is good when you're in a zone of genius. Nobody ever called me and said, I heard you were really boring and I'd like to hire you. Ever. They call Chris and they say, I hear you're really smart. I hear you're a really good problem solver. You see what I'm saying? So whatever it is that attracts people to you are the kind of people that are going to call you. They're not going to, they're going to call you and say you're a good realtor, but they're going to call and say, I heard you're a really good realtor from a friend of mine who was at a truck show that there was some jewelry stuff there and that you were really cool, right? That you knew your stuff. Right, now you have to seal the deal, right? Just getting the introduction doesn't do that for you. You have to go in now and show them what? This other circle, right? The expertise. But the zone of genius part is what gives you the opportunity. Then the knowledge piece is what's going to then seal the deal, okay? This is really what you're looking for here, is you're going to want to have more conversations with people while you're in your zone of genius. That's it. I mean, it's such a simple concept. I could write a book like Gary's for one thing. Have more conversations with people while in your zone of genius. Make that your one thing. Make that your one thing. Every day. Be in my zone of genius and have more conversations with people while I'm there. Opportunities come from that. Leads come from that. And then guess what? Do you think it's more fun when you're in zone of genius? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? All right. Give me 3 ahas and let's get out of here.
That whole make a pie thing, you know, sometimes we get into doorknob, this, that, the other, and it's like, when I look at those things, I'm like, ugh, and you know what I mean, and it's like, to think that you could build a business off of making pies, and there's really no darn reason why you couldn't. That's huge. And to be so happy in that feeling from your soul that you get when you're in that zone, and to be able to do that and make money, and still have it be wound into real estate.
I wish I loved to bake, or draw, or play music, because those are easy. Those are easy to weave in, okay? The the harder ones are the ones like, you know, performance and teaching and things like that. But the honest answer is that whatever your zone of genius is what you're gonna do anyway. It's what you're naturally called to do, so just do it. Right? And trust that the universe is gonna take you down the right path. It's amazing, right? We had a guy, team leader up in, what's the team leader's name that does the concerts?
Roy.
Who?
Roy?
Aaron.
Aaron, I don't remember his last name. Anyway.
Boston Metro.
Boston?
Aaron
Okay,
Lippert.
he has a band, right? And they do concerts. And guess who they're promoting at the concerts? Their real estate office. And they love having concerts. And when they're there, when you see Gary Keller jamming out, is that inspiring? Mm-hmm. Now, you go to a city like Folsom or Elk Grove or any place like that, and where you are, and let's say you're in your zone of genius and you got thousands of people around, and there's a big sign with your name on it, and you're in your bliss, whether you're fundraising or you're singing or you're doing whatever you're doing, people go, oh, and they connect the dots themselves. They go, oh, very cool. Oh, they're realtors. Oh, very cool, right? And then those are opportunities that then you have to follow up with, right? Those people have to go in your database, and then you have to stay in touch with them. But the seed is planted. Okay, good. One more aha or two more ahas. Who else have one? Yes.
I'm going to spend more time in my zone of genius. It's so easy.
What is it?
Cooking.
Cooking, right?
And I used to do that, and I would invite friends over, we'll talk, we'll eat, and then all of a sudden I get a phone call, hey, my friend wants to buy real estate. What?
Bingo.
Yes,
Yeah.
I need to go back to doing that.
So have parties,
I like
invite
to eat,
people,
I
go
love
back.
to cook, and why not do business with it?
And you know what? Every time somebody buys a house from you, you should go cook them a meal at their new house.
Okay, that would be.
What a beautiful housewarming party that would be, right?
Yeah.
You show up with all your goodies and you go, you guys make yourselves at home, have a glass of wine, I'll be done in however long, right? For me,
You
it'd
can
be
do
6
it
hours.
time of possession.
There you go. All right. What is your aha? Quiet gentleman in the back row.
I don't know. Well, I like to fish a lot.
Ooh, okay.
So right now, salmon season starting on the river here, so it's runs through December 31st. Starting on the 14th of July, so that's one of my big passions. I also make my own lures for it also, so
Yeah.
you know, because it's better to make them than to buy them.
Yep.
And, you know, because you take the time to make them.
Yep.
It's like you made something and you throw it out there, and the fish actually.
Awesome. Do you think he's passionate about
Yeah.
that? Look at that. He's got it. Okay, so what would happen if you were to put together a group to go and fish with you? You've made your own lures, you invite some past clients, and you tell them to bring a friend. And you get 6 or 8 people together, and they go with you, and what have you just done? While you're in your zone of genius, you've created more opportunities. Those guys are going to go home, and they're going to go, man, I went fishing today with this guy who makes his own lures, and he is like awesome, and he is a realtor. Right? They connect the dots, and then you follow up with them. Guys, that's all it is. That's all it is. Create opportunities using your zone of genius. How do you feel? Energized?
Yeah.
Inspired? Ready?
Yeah.
Motivated? All right, give yourselves a hand. Give your neighbor a high five. 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 You guys did good work. Okay, so now everybody's job is to go onto Facebook and find my fan page. It is facebook.com/Nikki and Chris Buckelew. Nikki and Chris Buckelew, right?
I believe so.
Shall I write it?
Yes.
And what I want you to do is I want you to post on our wall what you're going to do with your zone of genius. All right? I want to know this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out. I'm going to do this with my zone of genius. I'm going to do this with my zone of genius. All right? So it's Facebook, you know how it is, right? .com/Nikki, Nikki, and Chris, CHRIS, Buckelew, BUCKELE.
I did. Well, mine is pretty easy because I like.
All right.
If I could go to a networking event every day and talk to people, I would do that every day. Like if I could go to a networking event and connect to people every day and do that,
You're welcome.
I would do that every day.
And we also have a seniors Facebook page, but this is the one I want you to post.
I have to make enough money to get
Now,
rid
if
of
you guys are interested at all in learning how to better serve seniors, the class tomorrow is in the Natomas Sac Metro office, and it starts at 1 o'clock. Yeah, right. totally different topic, still fun, but all about
Summer
social.
break. I go back to school all the
Small
time.
business.
Yeah, small but
It's really about how to
that's why I'm here doing
in real
as much as I
estate.
possibly can.
Learning is money.
Yeah, and then it's just a matter of getting out and talking to people every day when I get back to work and really working my schedule